Welcome everybody to our first Lift Up Women in Life Sciences live broadcast of 2026. We're back this month and we're talking about power moves, starting the year with confidence, courage and clarity. Three important C's. And we've got some phenomenal guests that are going to be joining me today within the life sciences space, true leaders within the biotech and the pharmaceutical world globally that have really navigated their careers all the way up through to global director C-suite orientated roles. So it's going to be a pleasure to bring them on screen in a minute. But for any of you that are dialing in for the first time, maybe not yet part of the Lift Up Women in Life Sciences group, our mission is to connect, inspire and champion women all the way from academia, those entering into the industry, all the way through to C-suite and board level roles. So if you haven't joined the community so far on our Lift Up Women in Life Sciences page, please do so. We've been going now for about 3 years and 3-4 months, I think it is. We kicked off because we're part of Fraser Dove International, the executive search life sciences firm that sit very much globally at the senior leadership layer of hiring within the life sciences space. And we as a group of female ambassadors internally thought, what can we try to do to give back to the community, to support women that have navigated career journeys, sometimes some big challenges and hurdles, to get their voices heard. So we kicked off with this live broadcast just over 3 years ago now, for them to share their journeys, experiences, and every month we have a different topic that's very much based around what the community wants to talk about and what's going on globally. And aside from that, we've done podcasts and we've done blogs and we've done various things, but it's been an absolute privilege to be a part of this journey. And we've now had something like 150,000 global views following all of our live broadcasts. And I've had over 120 key speakers that have joined us on this journey. So thank you to everybody that's been a part of that. So if you are dialing in, please say hello, pop it into the comments. It's great to build your network. That's what this is all about. Put in where you're dialing in from, maybe what part of the industry within life sciences that you work within and where you're sitting globally. I am Louise Williams. I'm the MD here at Fraser Dove International, and I've been in life sciences for about 11 years and staffing for 20 years now. So very passionate about building these communities and bringing people together. So throughout this live broadcast, we're going to ask the speakers some questions, which is going to be super exciting on how they've built and developed confidence, courage, and clarity throughout their career journeys. But we'd love to hear from you as an audience. So if you've got any questions, pop in a queue into the comments and I'll try to navigate and pull those comments out and bring them up live in screen here so they can answer some of your questions. So please get them coming and rolling through. But without further ado, I'm going to bring in Aditi Ulvskjold onto the screen. And Aditi, it'd be lovely for you to do an introduction to the audience for me.
Hi, everybody. First of all, Louise, thank you so much for the privilege to be talking about. And what a topic, clarity, confidence. Currently, professionally, I just started a job here in January as the Vice President for Global Marketing Urology at Ambu. And my career has spanned both pharma and medical devices, and I would say intentionally built towards always driving impact, always helping people live healthier lives. So I'm trained as a dental surgeon, research, started my career in R&D at MSD, worked as a consultant, bringing drugs and technology to the market, and then ended up having a very nice career at Novo Nordisk for a while. The company that we are all talking about, the GLP-1s, I have worked a little bit that through pharmacovigilance and medical care, and then I landed home in commercial roles where I worked again in Novo on life cycle management. Ended up with Contech, building up business development, strategy, and marketing, and then launched a drug for Leo Pharma, a topical, and here I am in Ambu, hoping to add further to their ambitious growth agenda.
Excellent. Thank you for that, Aditi. And, what perfect timing as well, talking about confidence, courage, clarity, going straight into the new year with a lovely new job. So very exciting and pleased for you. Lovely to have you as part of this panel as well. And then we've got Heather Moses. Heather's somebody I was communicating with back in 2015, I think it was. So it's been great to have you back here as well as a key speaker, Heather. If you wouldn't mind doing an intro to the audience for us.
Definitely. Thank you. And it's a pleasure to be with such a great panel. I've had an interesting career in going from academia, as many of us have. I'm Canadian, and so moved from working in Canada, my first sales role in the pharmaceutical industry, to the UK for many years, and really worked through different disease areas. Went into medical affairs as a field-based medical affairs role, then office-based leadership at a country level, and then moved to Basel, Switzerland, in a global role, so with Roche. And was in global medical and had launches that really moved from oncology into cardiovascular and also in multiple sclerosis, so across lots of different disease areas. And then from that move from Basel again, and with the family and like relocating all of your children and starting exciting new jobs, relocating everyone again back to the UK, where I was head of medical affairs in the UK business, which was really a great learning experience to go back and forth between countries, and as well the relocations with your family. After that, I went back to Roche in a global marketing role, so changing functions this time. And then after that, believe it or not, back to the UK. So I then went to be the country medical director. So we're from marketing back to medical as a medical head at Novartis in the UK. And then a regional medical role. So I was VP, head of medical affairs at AstraZeneca for their UCAN business. And now, again, I've transferred back to the UK. That was also in Switzerland to with AstraZeneca as a commercial role. So transferring again into commercial oncology. So I guess just to summarize this, it's sort of going through many different countries, many different functions, many different disease areas, scale or scope of leadership from individual teams to functional leadership to global or commercial leadership. Comes in many forms and many lessons. So I hope I can share some of that today. Thank you. It's been a journey.
Sounds like it has. And what courage as well to, hop over into different countries, different functional areas as well, learning new skill sets. So yeah, lovely to have you on board this live broadcast, Heather. And certainly not last but not least is Kelly Beck. Thank you for joining us today. If you wouldn't mind doing your introduction for us.
I am having technical issues and can't hear you.
You can't hear me? Oh, Kelly. Okay.
You can hear me.
We can hear you. We can hear you.
I can read your lips. That's about all I can do at the moment.
See if you can do an intro.
I'm Kelly Beck. I have no idea, Louise, what you said about me in advance. So I'm going to try to wing this and see if my audio comes back into connection. I got to hear Heather's intro and her talk, but for whatever reason, it's been a day. So I'll preface all of this to all of you listening by saying my internet went out at home. So I have relocated to a neighbor's house and am just kind of flying by the seat of my pants here. So my current role is CEO of Trench Therapeutics. We are an early stage biotech company harnessing the nasal microbiome to develop disease treatments for your upper respiratory tract diseases. I'm all sorts of flustered. My career trajectory has been very unique. I have an undergraduate degree in accounting, a master's degree in human resources, and an MBA, and spent a good part of my career leading the human resources function within early stage small biotechs through kind of mid-sized CROs. So building teams, building cultures, and the beauty of what I love about kind of smaller organizations is you get to wear multiple hats and get to do a lot of different things. So in those different roles, I have always had the opportunity to expand my skill set and expand the responsibilities that I had into other business operations roles, ranging everything from, people management, marketing, project management, investor relations, pretty much all of kind of the business functions at one point or another have rolled up under me in different ways. And so that has been kind of the highlight of my career and what I've really enjoyed. And I feel like also been a real good kind of groundwork for as I've expanded my career in different areas and been able to kind of leverage that before moving into my first CEO role And I will share that a little bit later, and kind of taking that leap from leading investor relations and operations and taking a company public through a reverse merger to then leading an early stage biotech. And this is my second stint as a CEO in an early stage biotech.
Excellent. Amazing career journey and history. I don't know if you can hear me, Kelly, but that was good. We're going to see what we can do while she can bring her audio back, but thank you very much for doing that introduction. For those of you that are dialing in, just don't forget, if you've got any questions, please pop in a Q in front of the question in the comments for our audience, and just say hello and where it is that you're dialing in from. It's great to get connected. You know, already we've got a couple of comments coming in here. We've got Sarah from IQVIA joining from Pennsylvania. Thank you for joining, Sarah. We've got Anoa as well from France, in quality. So yeah, keep them coming in, keep saying hello. We're going to kick off with our first question. Okay, so I think at the moment we're going to focus on clarity, getting some clarity. A question I might come to you first with this one, Aditi. So at the start of the new year, what's one question that you tend to ask yourself to get clear on where you want to be focusing your energy and what you perhaps want to let go? I think that's an important aspect as well.
Yeah, I think generally as leaders, we put a lot of onus on what do we want to achieve, what do we want to do. And one of the things that I have particularly had the good luck is of starting a new job here in January. And one of the things that I do have over time thought of is that point one, my mind, my body, and my are non-negotiable. No matter what I do, no matter how I do it, whether the mind's feeling good, and with that, I always go in and say, what are the 3 things I'm going to achieve this?
Yeah.
And everything else over time in that year has to be let go. There will be compromises, but what are the 3 non-negotiables outside of my mind, body, and time? And that's something that I help have a lot of self-reflection on, whether I'm on the treadmill, whether I'm exercising, whether I'm having a conversation with close friends, and really hone in on 3 things I need to do this year. And as you say, I need to learn to let go.
Yeah, I love that. There's a lady called Anna Mosley here in the UK who's a high performance coach, and she refers to it as mental agility. And I think taking that time out, just to reflect importantly on maybe a couple of the topics that you want to be letting go and you want to be adding, and maybe not looking at the whole 12 months as a year period, and maybe looking at it more as a 90-day or some smaller milestones to get to that point. Come to you similarly with this question, Heather. What's your kind of tact coming into the new year?
So I think we need to think of rocks, pebbles, and sand. So if you've got a bucket that can only be so full, actually, how do you decide what are those rocks that you fill first, and then the pebbles, and then the sand, to make sure there's room for everything, both in your life, but also the priorities at work. Yeah. And so I think about what are the qualities that make a rock, like what's the caliber of question you need to answer, the difficulty of the problem, the scope for which it has an impact, because you have impact on your direct individual relationships, on a team, on an organization, and actually I think externally, what's the scale of the impact I'm going to make with the actions I take. And so it helps sort of clear what are defining the rocks so that you can choose those, and then fill in the rest up to your capacity. And another aspect to think of is, who are you in that? So what are your strengths? And I like this idea of strengths-based leadership. And I'm sure we'll talk more about this when you think about confidence and skills.
Yes.
But what am I strong at? And then therefore leveraging the energy I have, instead of really spinning your wheels and really putting a lot of energy into something that isn't going to move the needle because it's not, a strength. And everyone has strengths, and focusing on those and how they apply to those big questions helps you feel clear, confident, both in yourself to act and make a move, towards those big, important goals.
Yeah, no, I love the analogy of the rock, pebble, and sand. Do you tend to start? So you start with the rock, and then you work.
Yes,
backwards.
You must. If you fill your bucket with sand, there's no more room.
Yeah. No, I love that. But how far ahead do you tend to go? Do you think of the rock as in like the end of the year? Do you have a refresh every January that you're coming in and thinking it in that way, and then kind of the pebbles of the quarters, maybe the sands, the sort of weekly. If is that kind of how you're breaking it down?
It depends on what scope, because you can apply this philosophy, of course, everywhere, like in your personal life or your career, or, you know, for obviously your work-related aspects. So I think for in my role, we're looking at like longer horizons, of course. So you have a 10-year plan, a 5-year plan, and the, you know, what is, I'll speak in our terms, so like market shaping, launch readiness, maximization, or your leadership, you know, and there's different scopes for which you deliver in those. So personally and career-wise, you have to think of a longer term, and then you almost fill up the necessities that you require for those skills to get to where you want to go for the big career goal that could be your big rock that's 10 years away.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. We've got loads of comments coming through. I'm not sure if there's any questions that have dialed through here. Not as yet. If there's any questions coming through, let us know. We've still got loads of people dialing in though, so thank you. So Rochelle from Copenhagen. We've got another lady from Copenhagen. It looks like we've got a lot from Denmark, Copenhagen, and Denmark again. Thank you for all dialing in. Let's keep them coming. And Joanna here as well from Lisbon. So any questions, please keep them throwing. But yeah, completely and utterly agree with you, Heather. Kelly, can you hear us okay? I'm not sure if I think Kelly still might have problems, and I don't think she can hear me. According to this, she can only hear you, Heather. I don't know whether
it looks like I can be the host now.
I know, I've never done this before.
Translate
This
for
is
you.
the first time in 3 years. Do you want to let Kelly know that she can answer this question if she's got any thoughts?
Kelly, we would love to hear from you. How do you have clarity in your goals, and what would you let go of? How do you figure that out?
Well, thanks, Heather, for being the voice of Louise. I don't know why it is that I can't hear her, but I can hear you, so that's good. How do I have clarity in my goals? I think for me at the start of the year, I really kind of take stock of how the past year went, what worked well for me, what brought me good energy, and where I found enjoyment and fulfillment, and what didn't serve me. And so really kind of thinking about that and getting clear on those things, and the areas that didn't fulfill me, are they necessary for me to continue doing in my life? And if so, then I need to figure out another method or way to make those feel a bit more rewarding and less energy draining. And where I lean into is where are the spaces that gave me the most joy and energy, and how do I continue to build and grow on those in the next year? So for me, it's really kind of, you know, taking a step back and assessing how things have gone, and where do I want to go this year, both personally and professionally. And then thinking through, you know, what are the things that I need to do to get there, whether it's, you know, new education and something new to learn, partnering in a different way in a business setting, just really kind of thinking about those things. And then where can I contribute my strengths and my talents? Heather, I know you were talking about strengths too, to the organization, to the people in my life, to continue to give back as well.
Excellent. Thank you for that, Kelly. Yeah, thank you. Funny what you just said then around energy, I think is really important. Actually, I was reading something up about, you know, burnout and disengagement often can come from depleted energy, not necessarily workload and the amount of workload in which somebody's got on. So it's really important sometimes to just identify what drains you the fastest, and, you know, and limit it where possible. So, you know, maybe build one non-negotiable habit that supports mental clarity every month, even, because I think that's, you know, really key. We've been seeing across our industry through some of the reports, Gallup reports from the end of last year, you know, that there's only about 21% of employees worldwide feel engaged at their work right now. So this kind of burnout and sense of disengagement, it's not just from the amount of workload they've got, it's maybe just from depleted energy. So when you mentioned energy then, Kelly, it just really resonated with me. She probably can't hear a word that I'm saying. This is truly authentic live broadcast where we're having to really think ab lib here, because unfortunately Kelly's internet's not working very well. But thank you for answering that question. keep the questions coming through. I'm going to come on to confidence now, I think. So Aditi, confidence isn't always automatic, right? And it's a bit of a chicken and egg kind of situation. But what has helped you build confidence, maybe at pivotal moments in your life sciences career, especially when stepping into new or uncomfortable territory, and you've just stepped into a brand new role? So, at the start of a new year.
Yeah, I think building a confidence is always almost going into that superhuman pose before that is taking a deep breath. Very much harking back to what you were saying, Heather, knowing what energy you have, what do you bring, the strengths that you bring, being very clear about those things. And, as I step into this role, I have come into a new drug area. It's not the first time I've done it in my life, changing countries, learning new languages, all of that. One of the things, actually, apprehension is normal. And that little bit of nervousness is normal. Learning to accept it and acting despite of it and grounding yourself in the strengths that one has. What am I good at? To your point, am I good at market shaping? Yes. So I may not know this market, but I will understand the customers, and then I will be able to go after what is the problem that I'm trying to solve and for whom. And across pharmaceuticals, across medtech, I've seen the fundamental questions we need to answer are the same in order to make sure that our product is fit for purpose. So having that, and at the end of it, what gives me confidence, and sometimes you're speaking to, C-suite, sometimes you're speaking to the CEO, head of the board. How many times have you interacted with that? What I always say is, remember, you're chosen for the job and for a reason. You may not understand that why, but your leader believes that you have the capabilities, or you have the data. For those who are very data driven, you and then the other side of it is feeling the confidence is we're all human. I will make great discoveries. I'll do great stuff, but sometimes I might not hit the mark that I have set up for. And I'm human. And so is the other person. They may be a C-suite, they may be a CEO, but they're also human. Nobody is perfect, and neither am I, but we're all going to try to make the best, and we're going to give our best to the project or the product that we're working on. So those are some of the things that I really do work with, feeling human and playing on your strengths. I think you should always remember that your strengths are what have got you here and will get you further. Yes, you have to manage areas which are development wise, but it's the strengths that get you further.
Yeah, I love that. And we might talk a little bit about imposter syndrome, but it is almost a little bit of self-efficacy, self-talk, isn't it? It's kind of that having that inner voice telling you all of those things, like we are all just human. You don't actually know how that other person across the other side of the room is feeling or thinking. And action builds evidence, but evidence builds confidence. So you're kind of it's just like your confidence often comes after the action, not before.
Exactly.
So you've kind of got to put yourself out there in order for it to kind of happen and snowball. So yeah, love that, Aditi. And Heather, same question for you. What are your thoughts around the confidence piece?
Thanks. I think there's a couple of framings that can help you get confidence, and that also gives you courage to act and be who you need to be for the task. So I think one of them is to assess openly without pre-specified views when you're coming into a team, a new job, a new question. Because when you can think, I don't know, that makes you feel not confident, right? Because you're thinking, oh God, I should know, I don't know. And then you are silent potentially. Where actually, if you think, I'm here to listen, I'm here to assess openly, what are these key questions? It helps you be there, present, and actually solving what's new problems instead of relying on knowledge that you have. Knowledge is very easy to get nowadays. So it's more about how you approach these key questions to identify what's a path. And that goes into my second point is if you ask the questions and navigate a path to find, so what's the way to identify the problems to solve? Who do you need to work with you to get there? What is your goal in the end? I think this creates a path and a strategy that really helps you act and gives you certainty to your actions. And my last point would be, you're not alone. So everybody around you wants to succeed. They want you to succeed. They want the project to succeed. There's nothing personal here other than wanting to go forward in this goal. So actually, you can be comfortable to ask those questions, work towards with a team. So a shared burden is a much lighter load, and therefore you can be confident with your strengths to operate in that space with others. And you're not alone without, the team around you going to that same goal.
Excellent. I love that. I love the shared burden element as well. So yeah, beautifully put. Kelly, I think Kelly's still struggling to hear us, but
shall I?
Yes, if you could give her a nudge, she can hear you, but not me.
So Kelly, we were just talking and you heard me about confidence and building confidence. So what helped you particularly, I think, in your role and actually through your career to step into uncomfortable territory? Uh-oh. Oh, Kelly, hold on. We can't hear you now. Oh, no.
Oh, dear.
Oh,
okay, can you hear me now?
Oh, wait, there you are. You're back.
Yes,
yeah, we're back.
Gotta love technology. Okay. I would say for me, I've made some really interesting moves in my career where I've gone into a role where I may not have had all of the necessary experience to do that. And I think about specifically when I moved into an early stage biotech, and my first role was to lead their investor relations function, something I had never done before. There are a lot of skills in human resources that translate into investor relations. You're telling a story, you're trying to bring folks into the organization, whether they're investing their money or they're investing their time as employees. So I actually found a lot of transferable skills from that. But the thing that really helped me be successful out of the gate in that role is that I had built a very diverse network of folks. And so in that network, I had some folks that worked in investor relations as their primary job function, and had one friend who was great who said, "Hey, welcome, come on over to my office for lunch. And I'm going to sit down and I'm going to tell you everything that I do. I'm going to open up my Rolodex." I'm not even sure that's a term people use anymore, but for the rest of us, we do. She's like, "And I'm going to, tell you exactly how I manage all of this." And so she really gave me the foundation to work from, made introductions to me to investment bankers, to VCs, and really kind of helped me lay out the communication strategy and planning around that. And so having her to lean on when I had a question allowed me to, one, have that safe space and not be afraid if I wasn't sure about something, and gave me some more confidence to move into that role and be successful for that transition into there. And that network that I built and those experiences then really helped translate into when I took my first CEO role, which I know we've got some other questions coming, and I really think that is probably a great transition to talk about as we kind of get through some of our other topics here. So I'm going to hold back on that just a little bit. But there has been a theme, I think, in my career of where I've had the ability to really leverage my network and build that strong, diverse network and lean into them has really allowed me to, I think, grow and be successful in the different roles that I take. Subsequently at that company, when we ended up doing a reverse merger, our CFO had left. We had an interim CFO, and she left right after we filed our S1. And so we weren't going to be able to bring a CFO in until we closed that transaction. So I kind of had to step in and lead that, and had lots of friends and connections that were CFOs that had taken companies public. And so one of them would meet me for breakfast every couple of weeks, and I would come with my questions, trying to make sure I wasn't missing anything. And he would give me the guidance of, you need to think about this, that, and the other thing. And so that actually helped us get through that transaction and have that be a successful transaction. And I'm not sure I would have actually been able to do all of that if I didn't have that network behind me of people that I could rely on.
Yeah, I love that. Thank you, Kelly. And to be honest, that's confidence in itself, because there's so many leaders that I even speak to now that have got very small networks that find it quite tough sometimes just to get themselves out there. They're kind of a little bit like, oh goodness, how do I do that? Do I need to go to face-to-face events? Do I just start connecting to people on LinkedIn? Do I go into community groups? And and that in itself just takes a bit of confidence, stepping outside of your comfort zone if that's something you haven't done, or that you've not done before. But it's so worthwhile, because I think the higher and the more senior you climb, you know, you need that network, whether it's mentors, sponsorships, go-to relationships to kind of help. So I think that's a great piece there, Kelly, on the networking front. And last but not least, before we move into some other questions we've got, I just want to finish off on the courage element here. So can you share a power move where you chose courage over comfort, and how did that decision shape your leadership or career trajectory? You might think back, you know, was there a specific time in your career where you really took that power move? Aditi, I'll come to you with this one first.
I think for me, I would say there's one power move, but it has two elements to it.
Okay.
That I always use is, what is the risk here? I have the risk if when I'm standing in some dilemma, or trying to, where you've got that comfort, you're kind of going out of your.
Yeah.
I said, what is the upside and the downside? Sometimes the upside is, if I royally fail at this, I would have learned. But if I don't do this, I'll miss out on that opportunity. Right? For me, it's about, what is the upside here? The risk here is to learn. I could be wildly successful and still learn. I could be failing and
still learn. Yeah.
So that goes into saying that my power move is always curiosity.
Yeah.
And I don't know if anybody's seen Dexter, and you have Dexter's sister always saying, "Oh, Dexter, what does this button do?"
Is this the Dexter Laboratory?
Yes.
Oh my goodness, that used to be my sister's favorite cartoon program years ago.
So,
yes, I know what you mean.
Exactly. Curiosity is a major power move.
Yeah.
Because it build the courage to take that next step, to dive in. And that is what I would say shapes careers, shapes moves, shapes your leadership. As a leader, you have to be constantly curious and listening in. And I think that's something that I definitely say is that would be my power. Always curious.
Yeah, love that. So it's a bit of a superpower for you, but the power move when you make those decisions, or has done in the past, it's been very much on the risk of the reward and the pros and the cons, and weighing them all up. No, I appreciate that. That's great. And Heather, is there a specific move that you've made in your career, from Roche to Novartis to AstraZeneca? Is there something there that stands out for you?
Absolutely. I think, the expression, 2 steps forward, 1 step back. And this is like a negative connotation. Can I give the reverse of this in careers? Is if you take 1 step back, often it can put you 2 steps forward. Just to reverse that mindset a bit. So I think sometimes you have to erase a perspective of these near-term goals or ambitions of, like, I want to raise my grade of role, I'm going to raise my salary, etc. What's my title of my next move? But actually, if you're focusing on these bigger, longer-term goals in order to achieve the components, particularly for a role like a CEO, VP, you don't just do this by knowing one thing. You need a diverse trajectory. And sometimes this means going sideways or backwards. And so what I'll say is, some people might say, oh, you've gone from being a VP and now I'm a director in commercial. But actually, these are vital skills. I have to be humble. No, I didn't have this direct role, learning in this organization with this portfolio. And I certainly don't feel like I've gone backwards, but it's almost, if you think of these near-term perspectives, if I was very stubborn and saying I must only have another VP role, and I would never get to a long-term goal of where I wanted, because I'd be missing key skills. So this is the power move, is to actually focus on a bigger picture. Your career is a marathon, not a sprint. And if you're running straight up, you're gonna hit a ceiling potentially. Not to say there's not exceptions, but really you are a better person, more diversified if you gain these different experiences, and then you have many more avenues to go to in the future. So expand what a career can mean to you and the different paths you can take. And that's, as I'll say right now, is, my power move. And I really appreciate everything I'm learning here today.
Yeah.
And so I hope that resonates, and I'll pass to Kelly, just to get her views on this same move. Thanks.
Thanks, Heather. I completely agree with what you just said about, being willing to make moves where you learn new skills to really enhance your career. Certainly, I think that has been part of my experience, but I would say probably my biggest kind of power move, if you will, was moving into a CEO role in the middle of the pandemic. As my first time. And I'll give a little quick backstory, which is someone had reached out to me and said, we've got an opening in our portfolio of companies as an investor, and we think you should apply for the CEO role. And I thought, you're crazy. Like there's just no way. I'm not ready. I can't imagine this. And I thought, I'm going to interview anyway, because even if I don't get it, it will be a good experience. It'll be new. And I can use that for, trying to figure out what I need to do differently to expand my career if I want to do a CEO role in the future. I didn't expect to meet the business founder, and we hit it off, and he was like, your skill set is perfect, and I think you'd be great in this role. And so we had started that process in January of 2020. And worked through it through the shutdown of the world, and then the next thing I know, we were still in Pennsylvania where I live, still not completely back to work, and so here I am transitioning out of a very stable job that I enjoyed the job itself and was well compensated for that, to a startup that had just gotten a $1.5 million NIH grant and had no other real funding. So it was a big risk. Thankfully, I had a severance to kind of cushion me a little bit, but I took the leap of faith and moved into that role. I had a great mentor that that has been along with me for a number of years and has been a CEO in biotechs. And so I spent some time talking about this with him, and, having him help me kind of strategize, negotiate my agreement, all of those things. You'd think working in HR, I could do that for myself. Not always great about doing our own things as much as we can coach others. And so he was really helpful and instrumental in that. And so I took the leap and moved into that role. And my connections and networking that I had built previously in that investor relations space really helped me build out the infrastructure of the company. So I consider myself a company builder. I've done that in a lot of different roles and organizations. And so I came in to build out that company, pulled out, dusted off my accounting skills to be able to do a lot of those types of things, but got the story together and went out and brought in our first seed round of capital to move that science forward in preclinical development. And so it was probably at that point, as I look back at my career, the biggest one I took. It was really a leap of faith. I had no idea what I was doing and if I was going to be successful, but had a lot of people behind me encouraging me to go ahead and do that. And that also gave me the confidence to do that. So as I look at my career, I think that was probably the biggest power move I've had to make.
And what a power move. That's an amazing achievement. But I think it comes back to what Kelly was saying earlier around her network. Clearly, she got to that point of building quite a big network and had a lot of people behind her to support her with that, which gives, you a little bit more confidence when you've got people around you that are kind of cheering you on. So yeah, thanks for that, Kelly. I'm going to go into sort of navigating uncertainty area. So life sciences is constantly an evolving industry in which we're in, especially on the innovative sciences side and the regulation side. How do you lead as leaders with clarity and decisiveness when there is sometimes the path forward isn't always fully clear, right? Last year in biotech was a tough year in the biotech space and the investment space, and we had a lot of venture capital companies that weren't venturing. So there isn't always clarity. How do you keep pushing yourself forward when you're in a landscape like that, Aditi?
I think we need to, at the essence of it, we always need to remember we are working in the realm of science. And, going back to the basics, it's an experiment, till it comes out on the other side. So the risk is always inherent in everything that we do. It's developing healthier.
Yeah.
And I think one of the muscles the heydays of life sciences have been a decade ago. That's where you saw a lot of great technologies moving, but also from a life science sector perspective, we had a great boom as well. And I hope that for all of us, but at the same time, one needs to understand leadership skill that you need to have is to get uncomfortable with the discomfort.
Mhm.
You know, you have to start behaving like a student again. I don't know everything about everything. Going back to the principles are very core. Things that Heather, Kelly, you know, we've all talked about is that know what your strengths are. Sometimes you don't know. Priorities might shift because of the changes that happen around us. It's not just the life sciences sector, it's also geopolitics across the globe, which affects our everyday jobs and our everyday lives. But it is also about saying, how do you create that safe space as a leader for your people to be able to vent it out? Because when they are going to have that safe space, when they can actually talk about what is bothering them, you can always say, hey, being honest and saying, I don't know what I don't know, but here is what we can control together as a team. Here is what we
Mhm.
can live together as a team. And I promise you, and that's also part of how you lead in this, is communication, transparency in
Mhm.
these times, especially when you're dealing with it, and getting your team also to be a little bit comfortable with the discomfort.
Yeah.
Safe space,
Yeah.
having the feel they have somebody who's watching their backs all the time, has their best interest all the time, and we as leaders really strive to have that.
Yeah.
So, and then being able to navigate that complexity and just saying, you know what, we're just going to learn to practice with this muscle of being comfortable with the discomfort.
Yeah, I love that. And I think just maybe not going in it alone, maybe, and that's kind of what you alluded
Exactly.
to as a team. You know, I think that there's not always transparency in this industry, but if you're working in an environment in which they're feeling like there's collaboration, there's open transparency of communication, then you kind of work your way through that one together. Unless there's anything to add to that, Heather, I might just jump on to the other question. Is there anything else that you've got in regards to that jumped to mind?
I would just say the goals you set need to be in this type of uncertainty, really ethics-based, value-based, and meaningful. So actually, then people will follow you or create a path with you with that support and confidence Aditi was talking about. But the goal itself in uncertain times needs to be clear and really orientated towards genuine value to like people, society, system. And then people will believe in that cause and get started to find the path forward.
Yeah, I completely agree. And almost if that rock, and whether it's 12 months, 5 years, whatever it is kind of stable and it's there, it's the acceptance that those pebbles and those sand is probably going to move around a little bit. And you're going to have to be a bit agile and adaptable to environments. But I love that. I'm just coming back to the audience quickly because I'm conscious of time has flown. So we have got Joanna, sorry, we've got Rochelle as well that's dialed in here and said, that's great advice, Aditi, being curious and learning from mistakes. Dee Dee, I don't know whether that's somebody you know or whether Dee Dee is raised for something I'm not aware of. But she's clearly supporting, I think, the comments that are being made. We've got Rochelle as well here saying, when you start a new role in an unfamiliar space, how do you overcome self-doubt and build belief in yourself as you find your footing? Heather, I'll come to you with this one first. If there are any thoughts in regards to this question?
I'll go back to a couple of things we already discussed, but to come together for this. So one is you're not alone. So you have your leaders, your network, things we've discussed about. So like Kelly described, to have someone teach you about what it's about to help you be familiar. So what's the problem you're solving here? Think about the strengths-based leadership. What are your skills? Why are you there? Who believed in you? And, to apply the skills in that space. And the openness to navigate and identify what are the things to be solved and a process behind how you find that path versus trying to impose something you had in the past into that space. And I think those three things together will help you. I would say if it comes to like big ticket, say presentations or things that you need to go to senior leaders and you're new in a role, don't frame it in your mind, because this will break your confidence of it's me presenting to them and they're judging me. This doesn't help you at all. So actually what I would do is go towards these stakeholders beforehand, share your ideas framed with this perspective of, I'd love your view. My goal is X. what is your advice? How would you,
Yes.
go about this? And then they're on your side. You're almost like in that room with them, and you've created a common audience that you've solved together, and they're on your side instead of you presenting to them or against them. And that helps you build that confidence into the task that you're then, presenting if you're coming up to a big event in a new job, would be some practical advice.
Love that, Heather. Thank you very much. And I think that phrase I've used in my past, and what advice would you give if you're approaching anybody that you're thinking you want advice from, you're not sure how they're going to perceive what it is that you want to be doing, maybe they're not that forthcoming, whatever it might well be. I think you level the kind of ground a little bit and make it feel a lot more comfortable by just saying, I've got these ideas, I've got these thoughts, but what are your thoughts? What's your advice? I love that, Heather. I think
people love to give their knowledge and perspective, especially senior leaders, and they actually want to see you succeed. So get them on your side.
Yeah, I love that. Excellent. And then we're running out of time, but I just want to discuss the defining of success, and then maybe one bit of advice you'd give your younger self. But Aditi, I'll come to you with this question quickly. How has your definition of success changed over time?
I think the biggest difference that I've had, and I would say this has become more and more clear to me in the last 5 to 7 years of my career, is the one thing is that you never get back is time. You can earn that position back, you can earn the money, you can earn everything. Time, we've not yet invented the time machine. So for me, I want to make sure that I make the right choices every time, with the information that I have. And I want to make sure that the time people spend with me and I spend with others adds value, drives impact.
Love that.
And that's very, very important. And so it is important for me, the company I work with, the leader I work with, is this my time well spent? I spend a lot of time now thinking about who is going to be leading me versus what I'm going to be leading, because that absolutely critical value of my time and for the people I'll be leading as well. So time.
Yeah, love that. Excellent. Time. And I think as something Heather said around, but in my head, it's not, success isn't just about a title or about remuneration or about salary. It's about the breadth and the depth of the skills in which you're gaining to kind of get you to the point that maybe that you want to be. So love that. Kelly, Heather, you might need to do the honours, unless Kelly can hear me.
I'm kind of getting good at reading lips here. So I might share some things that Aditi also has shared, because that's the other person I can't hear, oddly. But I also think about something that Heather talked about where, for me, kind of success over time is less about what is my title, what is my compensation looking like, but am I doing something that is meaningful and fulfilling, and that is contributing to society. So early in my career, I had worked in different industries before I found biotech quite by accident. And then once I landed in biotech, I was like, this is where I want to build my career, because the ability to talk about working for a company where you are developing science to improve patients' lives, to me, is very meaningful. What gets me out of bed every day. And so early in my career, as I think most of us are, we're interested in climbing that ladder and getting, the title and the money and everything that comes with it. But at some point, I think this also comes with age and maturity. I think you get to a place where, like, that's not as important to me as what am I contributing? Am I happy in what I'm doing? I worked in a very toxic culture once, and despite, the fact that I might have liked the job and the compensation, the environment was really difficult, and I chose to leave and walk away from that because I knew that in the end I was going to be happier. So for me, that's what I think about. And then as I talk to younger folks and coach them or share feedback with them, I really encourage them to think beyond just what that kind of traditional ladder looks like, and making sure that you feel like you're using your strengths and that you feel like you're learning as you go along.
I love that. That's brilliant. Could you see, Heather, if she'll roll into this one while what one bit of advice would she give?
Kelly, let's finish off with your piece of advice that you give your younger self, given all your experience now.
Oh, I think I've already shared it, right? Like, I wish my younger self was less worried about all these other things of what everyone else thinks and, what that title is and all of that. And really just focus and hone in on where do you find the most joy and feel like you are contributing the most. And that's the most important thing from my view that I wish I would have kind of learned earlier in my career. And I would say the other thing, not necessarily advice, but the one thing I think I would kind of pat myself on the back with is I learned very early to build that network. And for me, I really attribute my success as a person, as a career woman, to the network that I have and the ability to really lean in to that group when I've needed it. So that's also a piece of advice I would give to any younger person or current, or maybe more mature person, right? I still think it's important, no matter what stage of your career you are, to continue to build a very diverse network, because you just never know who's connected to whom and what kind of support that they can give you.
Excellent. Thank you for that, Kelly. So definitely build your networks, not worry about what other people think, and back yourself. Purpose and passion came to mind as well. But then, Aditi, what's your one bit of advice you'd give your younger self?
I think I got that advice very recently in a conversation with a leader. I completely endorse what Kelly's saying about network. That is absolutely critical. But one of the things that I tell my younger self is, and this advice I got recently, and I was like, this is something I should have said to myself way before. But it's about, Barack Obama always says the person who is most valuable is the one who gets the job done. But this person who went on, and I said, this is the piece of advice that I'll give everybody, is that everybody can talk about things, but if you're able to identify the problem on an everyday day, you're able to diagnose why that problem is there, and you're able to find a solution. But most importantly, you're able to execute on it. And if you can do all these 4 things and move across that spectrum, you're already a winner, because you sift out 90% of the people, because everybody's got that skill set. But if you're able to work across that spectrum, and I feel that that's an advice I would say I would have given my younger self, where I could practice those skills.
Doing. Okay, so we're talking about diagnosis, solution creating, and execution. Was that? Yeah. Okay, and almost putting it into pillars. Any kind of project or situation. Love that. Thank you, Aditi. That's a great bit of advice. Good takeaway. And Heather, what's your bit of advice when you think about it?
I'll make this a quick one. I think calm down. Honestly, it's great advice. So
chill.
You calm down. No, there's more than that. And you don't have to be the one that knows and pushes everything, but you want to be the one who is the seeker and the helper of a group to orientate, and proceed around the goals. So the way in which you do things is different and isn't from knowing and pushing and being right and being the best and being, a lone performer. It's really about being the identifier, the problem solver, and getting a group together to find that path is much more important. And it actually is much more calming. There's less pressure on yourself to try to be something in an environment that you feel like you're pushing against. So you can sit back, observe, and find a way together.
Yeah, love that. And creating followership. Thank you. Some amazing bits of advice there across you all. And we've gone over time, so we're gonna have to say goodbye. We've had some great little comments coming in here. Decision making while leading, please share your perspective if time allows. I'm not sure we will, but we can try and pop some bits into the comments afterwards. Still coming through, so apologies for not being able to get round to everybody. Excellent, I love that. So great, thank you so much for everybody dialing in and joining us today. We have somewhere between 3,000 and 4,000 people rewatch this, and it gets redistributed obviously out through LinkedIn. So share it with any known colleagues, associates, friends, family members. It's always very well received, and we'll be back again next month. I think we've got one next month, which is around breaking the glass lab, women leading in science and innovation. We've got some phenomenal CEOs, CSOs and C-suite members that have been building biotech businesses over the last few years, so come and join us for February's broadcast. But Kelly, Heather and Aditi have been absolutely amazing today. Thank you so much for joining us on this live. Sorry for running a little bit over, and I'll say thank you and goodbye for now. Take care, everyone. Bye-bye.
Thank you.